I want to do we need to do a roll call?
I think I have everybody.
Okay.
Nikki, Sean, Rita, Casey, Benny, and John.
And Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy. I know I wrote you on the wrong list.
And I don't know, we have a couple new faces, so if you wouldn't mind, can we just go around the room?
Yeah.
Real quick? Do you want to go ahead and start?
Do that. Jeremy Hunt on the exec board, the entertainment committee, and Olson's Ice Cream is what I own.
Erin Klopp, I'm the executive director of Decky and a business owner in South Park today.
Casey Stevens, State Farm, I'm on the lighting committee.
Yes.
John Robinson, Investment Realty.
I'm Jill Hankimo, and I'm the owner of Connect Kid. I'm Stephanie Gersh, the city manager. Rita Dorsey from Hot
Aaron Brewster, City Council. Sean Chambers, Cougar Start in Line. Benny Haas.
Iris Toronto, on city council.
I'm Stephanie Brick. I'm the operation manager for the new ambassador program.
Mark Straw, I'm the project manager for Block by Block.
Awesome.
And Billy Hufford, neighborhood services manager.
I'm Vicki Olson, I'm chair and exec, the South Barstow, and I've got our boss law. Okay, first of all, thanks for all the guests for coming. I really appreciate that and appreciate all of you guys to be here. Of course, we don't have a quorum quite yet. We do know somebody's coming within a half hour. So before we get started, I am wondering if, I don't know if I need to make a motion or if you guys can just agree to allow us to move up agenda item 11 to the top, since we can't do any actions until we have quorum anyway.
You can up the street ambassador.
Can we go ahead and
Decky and staff?
can we go ahead and go down and do the ones that don't require action? So like street investors could go first?
If that keeps it clean, that's fine.
Yeah, and that way they don't have to stay the whole meeting.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
sounds good. So we're gonna jump to agenda item 4, street ambassador introduction. Thanks, guys. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Yeah, this is on the fly. And so I guess this kind of give you guys kind of an update, working through Billy, getting the ambassador program launched. Currently we have about 4 that are in backgrounds. And we have 2 that have already processed. One hopefully processes this morning. So we'll launch an orientation class next week. What our schedule realistically looks like is 2 days of all the good onboarding training that we've all probably done in our lifetimes. And then Friday we'll be out in the field, kind of just walking. And then with a launch on Saturday, probably looking at a deployment of having all the staff the first week. It's generally what we do with the account. Just having everybody out and about. So you will probably see us in every single zone as we start to identify and hone in. Once we have full staffing, Billy will have more of a kind of a deployment. And also we'll have documents too that kind of show our street deployment for current weeks. We adjust on the fly. Obviously we'd go through Billy with that, if there's issues. I think this week also too, I think one of the primary things we'll do the first couple of days is hand out our at your service cards, which are just kind of an introduction to the program. The phone number, I think, have I given you that phone number? Stephanie's phone number is basically an answer line. So that number can start being blasted out as if there's issues cleaning wise or there's outreach opportunities. That number can be resonated there. But other than that, I let Stephanie introduce herself a little bit and give her a little bit about her background.
Well, I'm Stephanie Brick. I'm the new operations manager of the ambassador program. I've been supervisors. I've ran my own office. I've done a lot of things. I've worked from minimal hours to 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So any of this stuff is exciting. I have a little bit of a background dealing with outreach program, different cleaning aspects. I've driven Uber and Lyft. I know a lot of the city. Super excited about this program, to be able to help the community. So with all that said, if there's any questions or anything that anybody has, please feel free to reach out to Marcus and I. That way we can answer it and maybe clarify some things that you have questions on.
Did you want to share your background with your family?
I can. My brother is actually mentally ill. He has bipolar and schizophrenic tendencies. He has been on the streets of Eau Claire as well. I have cousins who have Asperger's, cousins with, schizophrenia. I have aunts and uncles with, mental disabilities that I deal with in my daily life. And I myself have been homeless out here. So I have a different empathy of how somebody can feel so low and need that help. And I want to give them the information that I had and that I got, the information that I've collected from trying to help my brother and other family members and friends that I have had that have been low, just to ensure that people out here are not only treated as people, but get the information that they may not have.
Very cool. Everybody's familiar. I know we've kind of briefly touched on the ambassador program. I think some things to highlight is, like, how much time is this program going to be running, like, especially, in our district? And how would we find you? Do you guys have like?
So yeah,
outfits
the
or colors we
bright yellow shirts, that's the one thing with Block by Block. We do distinctly different shirts that that we're out there. They'll be logoed with Ambassador on the back. They'll have the City of Eau Claire logo on the front. Excuse me. The cleaners, you'll more so see their big, huge cleaning mega brutes, which will be branded with a logo as well. So they'll be, but they'll be out. The bright yellow shirt, you can't miss it. They do have a blue overcoat, but it's very heavily logoed, so you'll be able to clearly identify them.
And it was like, what do I remember? Was it like 200 hours a week or something crazy that this program's going to be operating?
7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6
Okay.
days a week, with Sunday being the off day.
Well, I'm super excited about this. I don't know if anybody else has any questions for them, but this is something me and Aaron were talking about for years. I think it's exciting to see it here. I think it's going to help with a lot of different things. I'm curious, what do you want to be bothered with? I mean, from like the business, like how can we communicate to our businesses too about what they should reach out to you?
I mean, it's a little bit of everything. Always the start is the data collection processing of it. It's a lot of these businesses. It's also determining too things that like we don't have. I think other cities, just kind of give an example, is we come in and they think that we have like this authoritative method when it comes to like unsheltered.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to use a de-escalation approach. If there's an incident with somebody's in like a business, why it is private property, we'll make our best effort, but ultimately those decisions within private businesses is theirs. If that's their route, they want to call police. If they want to try using us, we can. And that's sort of like our approach with the outreach component. I know some of it can be simply aesthetic, of like a person outside the business, and then we've used methodology of like, hey, if you sit here, you're going to get bothered regardless. Hey, let's go here. Let's go move somewhere else where, you're not causing an issue. You're not getting agitated. So we look at those type of things. So like businesses, like we can just be like, hey, we can help you with this, but there's certain parameters that we can't help you with as well. So those are one of the things. I think a lot of cities, I don't know how Eau Claire works. I can give an example, like Minneapolis is one where it comes in with our outreach team. It now becomes like, hey, if we can push the 911 call to them, now we're not on the problems property list. And those are things we try to avoid. We want to help as much as possible, but we don't want to tie up like other city services with something that we know is not an emergency. So those are one of the things that we see heavily with outreach program. We start, it was like, we're distinguishing like, hey, this probably isn't a 911 call. This is a non-emergency call, which sometimes it upsets businesses. But the realistic is it's going to go route to police anyway, and it's going to get prioritized in their call system to where now they don't get a response for a couple hours. And so that's where we hope that we can use like de-escalation, be like, hey, come on, let's go out, let's get out of this situation. But also too, that's kind of what the cleaning component does. I tell everybody, all my staff that I bring on, our cleaning program is probably like our link to everything, just because they're out there, they're going to see that they might not be outreach in a sense, but they're going to come across that unsheltered demographic, and where they're going to be like the heads, like, hey, now I'm going to need to radio the outreach team, maybe come offer this person. And then a lot of it is us understanding what services are available, what those services, like what the overall goal is for like different agencies, and like what we can help. Is it just us having like pamphlets of information. Other cities create, Minneapolis is a good example of that, and I can get Billy a copy of it. I think they have it called Book of the Unsheltered, which is basically a book that outlines every single little thing that's available to them, from meals to different housing services, shelter times, like when they can get in and out. A lot with like Minneapolis being so big, there's a lot of time crunch there that you have to either get your name on a list. And so if there's like those resources, we want to be that link to the resources.
Right.
That's what our main thing, the outreach program is bridging kind of that gap that I think a lot of cities see, that you can get to a certain part, but this agency can't get there because they don't know that this exists, or that person doesn't want to be there. So that's kind of the things that we look for with an outreach program. And then our cleaning component is just that cleaning, getting around, being out, being visible, being like a visible presence. So that's kind of what we ideally look for to start.
Yeah. Rita.
Well, I'm very appreciative that this program started, so well done. This is great. I have two questions.
Sure.
You said about 200 hours per week. What's that split between cleaning services and outreach services? And then my other question is, I think we've all identified Sundays there's a gap in service. So what was the motivation to not have hours on Sunday?
So the split would be, there's always a cleaner in the morning. We're splitting the outreach to have like an outreach component that goes all the way through. So I think that first 7:30 to 4 there's going to be a cleaning, there's going to be an outreach ambassador. And then we have like a split shift that comes on from 10:30 till end of shift. So you'll always have that outreach component that's there all the way through. Whereas the cleaning component is, I don't know if you want to answer like the hour, but our philosophy is with that Sunday gap that I always assume, like with a cleaning program, Monday is a high priority day because it's the end of the bar weekend, the end of the bar rush, as well as the end of the weekend. Thursday to Sunday is kind of like that period where everybody's out and about. And so we have that thought of having that cleaning in the front with outreach, and the outreach kind of sustains all the way through to address issues going into the evening.
John?
I have a question. Now they have, I think, 2 people from the city with a city truck that goes around and cleans. Are you gonna be taking over the city obligation of cleaning, like they go into the public ramps and clean the pieces and garbage that's left? Is that one of the things you are gonna take over from the city that's doing it now?
They'll be working with the team that does it now. So they'll be assisting with it. We'll see what that looks like. There'll be 2 people out, at minimum. So it may be 1 city staff and 1 block by block staff. There may be some additional tasks that staff just can't get to, like graffiti, power washing the steps, stuff like that block by block may assist with. So they'll work with our custodians regarding the parking ramps and the lots for cleaning those up in the parks. They'll work with the teams on that to assist where needed.
So is the cleaning on it like 50% of this total services? Because it could be.
It just, I think, depends on what's needed each day. If things aren't too bad, they might get things done in a couple hours and then, work on other things. So I think there'll be a good balance to make sure, there's the service that's available and then time spent getting everything cleaned up.
So you have your own trucks like that are marked, or will be city trucks?
I think if we're having somebody partner with them, we'll be in their trucks. Generally with us and our cleaning program, we will be primarily on foot. That's where I was talking to her earlier with the big mega brew. We can just cover a lot more areas and get to something like a vehicle can't get to. So I think originally at the start it's a lot of it's on foot, and then getting to areas like around parks, the easy navigation to get a mega brew in is a lot easier than having like a truck. So that's kind of the vision that we have.
I think it's important to note, like, this is obviously like a building program. We don't know what maybe necessarily our needs look like, but I think it's going to be important for us, it's the board and just business owners to like really be in their ear and let them know what we need.
Means everywhere? Like which?
North
I think it's all
and
the
South
districts.
Barstow.
Oh, just no south, okay.
So how do we, and aside from the writing of shirts, do we call if we need help with someone who's having an issue, or just a citizen, we witness someone having a problem or an issue? Is there a direct phone line? Do you call a non-emergency line?
It would be me.
All my.
It would be directly, if you're requesting our service, it would be directly through our line.
What is your cell phone number?
Oh, that is it. I mean, that's the number. It's-
Is that the number?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
literally.
If you're okay with that, I mean,
Literally.
No, that's how we set it up. so.
okay.
I'm learning it.
Just remember they haven't started. Yeah,
Right.
so, and they'll be out giving out contact information flyers. Just remember they haven't started yet, so don't call them
Yeah, give it a couple.
today.
So you'll be visiting all of the businesses.
Yeah, so yeah, we do a lot of that. Like the initial start, where we generally, as the program goes, we always do business contacts. As ambassadors in the field, they get to know businesses. But our initial start is what we like to do is get a lot of our info out, like our at your service cards, answering questions, have our manager out. And this is, I want to say trial by error. There's not going to be, I tell a lot of different businesses and accounts I set up, there's no stupid question. There's not, just ask it so it's out there. We'll see. I mean, other cities are like, well, I didn't know. We'll just ask. We'll figure it out. I was like, we're probably going to try it anyway. So it's a lot of that, getting that information out, getting it to us and letting us know. And it's also too understanding trends, as the weather progressively warms up. Like for the outreach program, they're going to understand how the migration of like the unsheltered might move to a certain location where 2 weeks ago they wouldn't be there because it's negative 25 wind chill. So a lot of it is just information sharing as much. And then I think going through Billy, she'll have a lot of statistics that we are tracking that she can share with you.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of the analytics portion of it that we do.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
715-533-5908. And again, my name's Stephanie.
And
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please do.
we do probably need to get moved on, but I really appreciate you guys. And I'm for one, I'm really excited about this and I
Thanks.
can't wait to see this become a really positive thing for our downtown. So, so we will move on. Thanks
Thank you.
again for coming and we'll be in touch.
All right.
Probably here from now.
Thanks.
Okay, so again, without any actions required, it looks like we're gonna move on to agenda item 8, council bid original and the adapted discussion. You guys all have copies of this in your packets. So I don't know, I just wanted you guys to all be aware of this because I think this is a really important thing that 2 of the council members brought forward. So it's really appreciated. And I think there was mostly positive that came out of it, even though it was a wild meeting. But I think, yeah, I don't know if, Aaron, if you want to speak to this or if you want me to. I don't know if I'm really gonna say it right why it was brought forward in the first place. But I guess it was to kind of squash some of the tension between city and bid relationship, and this was a positive move forward. So does anybody else at that meeting, or is it just me? Aaron is there. Do you want to speak to it at all?
Sure. So Councilman Brewster and Belton brought forward, not this exact resolution, but a version of it that then got amended on Tuesday and ultimately accepted. I think it was a really important moment. I think we can all acknowledge that there has been some incredible tensions kind of festering over the last couple of years. And I think it was important that our city council was made aware of kind of some of the struggles that the relationship between the bids and the city were having. Again, Nikki said overall, it was overwhelmingly positive, a lot of support from community members about bids and what they do. And I think that's really the point of it, was a recognition of the contributions that volunteer boards and property owners make both with their dollars and their time to serve their community. And looking for common understanding, ground, and a restructuring of the relationship through more respectful means. So although this is just a resolution, it's not like, you know, an ordinance or a law, it advises on how we expect the relationship to kind of sit. So I think, it's not gonna change everything overnight. But what it did was set the stage for a new relationship to be formed. And so that we can all achieve, you know, the goals we have for our city, so.
I just wanted to, like, without you guys having to like necessarily read this, I just wanted y'all to have this like in your possession so you can look back to it. But there was two things that like I wanted to just kind of highlight. So on the original resolution, if you will, it was asked that if I can, that property owners, occupiers, or representatives within the bid boundary were the only people to occupy the bid boards, which is currently where it always has been. That didn't quite make it. And I don't know what does this one say? The bid board composition will follow state statute and city ordinance, which requires appointments be made by the advisory committee on appointments, confirmation by city council, and the majority of board members shall own or occupy real property with the bid. So that's kind of, I think, to me, that was kind of a major change. Now suddenly these boards may be made up of people other than business or occupiers within the boundaries. So I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that.
Yeah, there'll be a meeting with the appointments committee in March that will invite bid members to, where they can further discuss what that'll look like going forward. From what I've heard, it doesn't sound like they're going to go ahead and make that change, but it will be up to them in council what that looks like. So we started working on the operating plans, and we have a piece of the board structures in that. So once that meeting's over and procedures decided on that, we'll start adding that into the operating plans. So some of the bids are different, like West Grand, it's really small, you know. It would be hard to rotate people off of that one because there's only 8, 9 members, and they're all property owners. It's everybody who's a property owner there. So I think some of those things need to be considered as they decide what it'll look like going forward, but no decisions have been made yet. They'll make a recommendation to council, and council will make the final decision on that.
When is that appointments meeting?
The 7th?
Okay.
Did we get it approved?
That is appointment committee.
It's Andrew Worthman, Emily Birdie, and Josh Miller.
So city council members are on the appointment. Where we, executive committee and the board, gave up nominations, so now council has it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys would make a recommendation, and then they would look at the recommendation and all applicants, and that's feedback you can give in the meeting that.
I understand, because now something what we've done is we come up with this and then it goes to council for approval. So now council's gonna tell us who's on it and then they're gonna approve it.
No, you guys will,
That is basically, that is what it is. They're gonna tell us who's gonna be on the board and to approve it.
I think we still get to
You
offer
still-
a suggestion.
yeah.
You can do your election and say these are the people we've elected and that we support, and they have potentially would have the right to choose otherwise. It does cause questions about your bylaws though, because every bid bylaw specifies their specific makeup, and it's in conjunction with the state statute. It's just more specific thing that you've chosen to have property and business owners as your board directors. So that would be, another issue that will come up after this, if for some reason, you might have to make bylaw changes if they're saying that it's not allowed. So it's still very uncharted waters, I would say. So I think this first meeting would be a really good time to express, why we've been doing things the way we have with the bid for so long. And we also know how difficult it is even to get quorum sometimes. And so I think that would be the opportunity when.
I think it's really an important conversation. I mean, if you feel really strongly about it, I would suggest go to this meeting and like make it known. That just calls into question, people that don't live, work, play downtown could have a say in how the money is spent to better serve us. And so it does seem like a bit of a conflict of interest. I don't know how everybody feels, but I think we definitely. Right. So, yeah, John.
Well, one thing is, we had a meeting with Councilman Workman, and he made it very clear that if the city was able to appoint different members from the community, the things that come out of the bid might be totally different. The other thing I have a question is that the city council passed this resolution, but as a bid board, we don't have to adopt it or go by it. Correct? Because we have not, this is what the city says, that doesn't mean the bid boards need to go along with it.
It's also not,
The-
it's
yeah.
also not an ordinance.
It's-
There's no real weight behind it.
So we could adopt the resolution that was submitted by council members and go by that if we wanted to go by one of these resolutions instead
So-
of by the city.
Bid board, yeah, bid boards are a part of the city, so, we would follow the policies of the city.
Make a small clarification. So the original resolution that came forth, and there might be a little bit of a misunderstanding, but that actual language around this that Councilmember Falcon and Brewster put forth says that the bid board composition will follow state statute, which all of this is in the state statute, which allows members to be a property or business owner. It doesn't say that they will be.
Okay,
It
but
says it allows it, and
It
the
allows-
state statute says that the majority need to be.
Okay,
So
but-
those two things to me are the same.
okay,
They're not
but-
in conflict with
but
one another.
once-
So nothing changed with the adopted
Okay,
resolution.
One thing you don't understand is if we get members on board that aren't taxpayers or bid board taxpayers, they could vote to raise our bid fees. And they're not paying anything. They have no skin in the game.
So, but
But
the way the state statute is written, my understanding is to make the majority be people
Yeah,
who
but it
have
doesn't say
that.
that we can't have all of them
It
either.
doesn't say that you can't have all
So
of
the
them.
city council is saying in their resolution that they want to be able to appoint different members, and I'm saying.
that hasn't been decided yet.
Well,
The
that's
meeting
fine,
on,
That's how it's written.
they put in what the minimum
Yeah,
law
it's-
is.
It allows it right now.
Yeah.
So they, not maybe this year, but maybe next year, we're gonna say, well, I think we should take 30% of the members, they should be people that are on city council.
And that is a decision a council can make, but that's why it's important for you guys to go to the March 7th meeting and give your feedback, because when Andrew came to the first meeting, he heard you guys and he was like, oh, wait a minute, let me go back and talk to the committee. We're putting everything on pause. Let me talk to the committee and then we'll meet back with you guys in the spring. So nothing's changed. And my understanding is they don't intend to make that
Then why
change
did they put it in the resolution?
because it is state law.
But they could also say that all members need to be, because that's option, either tax-paying members of the bid board or ventures in the bid board.
Yep, and they will decide that at that meeting and we'll put it in everybody's operation.
It's already been decided, so every year it could be decided differently.
It'll,
That's three
it'll,
people that decided, those three on the committee are the final decision?
nope, it'll go to council. So it'll go into your guys' operation plans and those will remain the same unless there's changes made. They do go to council with the budget every year. So council will sign off on your operation plans and they will have all the current bylaws and those details in them. So after the March 7th meeting, we'll work on that, but nothing's been decided
Well,
yet.
but it's you're on the right path to make the decision. Pretty soon, the council will be saying, well, the bid board, they've got this money here, maybe they should, I've heard it come up. Someone from the city said, well, maybe they should fix the sidewalks. You know, all of a sudden, we lose control of where our money is spent because the city council is involved. And that's when the bid board should be dissolved.
Yeah, it'll still be a majority of property, so the majority would have the vote. It would just be if business owners agreed with others, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So I would say, I would recommend that we wait.
and I've been on bid board ever since it was.
Yeah. I would just wait until the March 7th meeting. Come, give your feedback, hear what they have to say, have a discussion. I think they're open to working with everybody and coming up with the solution that works for everybody.
So I just want to make another comment that I think, just because this resolution passed, nothing has changed immediately. What I'm hoping is there's going to be more listening. I think Brewster said it once, council only knows what they know. And unfortunately, they didn't know a whole lot about bids. And neither apparently did all of the city staff either. This has been a very, very big learning curve, I think, for a lot of people. We know that bids operate differently throughout the state of Wisconsin. And as much as the bids have tried in the last year to point to those options as something that we want for ourselves, it isn't all in our control, unfortunately. I agree with you, John, 100% that this is money that we as business owners and property owners are choosing to put in to create vibrancy and economic vitality within our district and downtown. And so it's really important. And I think one of the things that we were trying to do with the resolution was draw attention to that amazing support that happened, because that was getting lost in all of this talk. And that's why when the bid created bylaw, they're intentional about it. This is a group of 15 people agreeing to these set of bylaws. There's reasons for that. And that's what the bids want council and the city to hear. We weren't just throwing together random ideas that we hoped would work well. This is a long time running of very smart people, investors, and creative folks who put energy into something. And for the most part, it has been legally accepted up until this point. And so I guess we're in a very uncharted waters. And so, John, I think the goal would be for the bid and working with, Decky to make sure that the bids still have their integrity and still have their control over their funds, and that this is not getting passed along where you can't control it. That would be something that would be illegal according to state statute. If the city was spending your money without your people, that can't happen.
Are there any rules that would disallow city staff or city council members from being on a bid? Because I think that's where you start looking at an imbalance of power where you can say, well, the majority are still business owners, but then when you have decision makers who are on the bid too, who could ultimately influence or sway or, maybe even intimidate people into voting a certain way. I think that's where the majority no longer matters if you have that imbalance of power within your members. Like here, we're at the table, we're all equals. You start bringing people who are decision makers within our city or our county, and I think that can really throw things off.
I think that'd be a good thing to bring up in that meeting, and that can March 7th.
And I also want to say, I think this, let's ask the question, why now? This is suddenly getting brought up. We've done it one way for 40 years and it's never been an issue. I feel like I've always felt this underlying, even when we had that meeting, John, with Councilman Worthman, it felt kind of like there was something underlying that suddenly they wanted to hyper focus on the bids and say, wait a minute, we maybe need to look at who's all involved there. And I don't think I've gotten that question answered, and I'm going to save it for this meeting, but I think there's just reason for us to kind of question this whole thing.
So just from my perspective, and I haven't been closely involved and I'm really here to listen. But there were a few things that kind of precipitated us trying to understand bids better. One was a request from the council to understand how bids work, and that particular advisory committee of appointments wanted to know why bid appointments were different from other types of city board appointments. And they asked for an opinion about whether or not they had the ability to not just approve what was given to them. And then secondly was looking at the finances from auditing things triggered that we have to examine what we're doing. And honestly, it was a learning curve for us. So the more we looked, the more we, thought this needs to get sorted out and we need to get this in order. And I'm hoping that, and I'm sorry that you all have been kind of in the crosshairs of this transition, but the intent is really to get this buttoned up and sorted out and everybody have a shared understanding of what the requirements are so that you can really move forward and do what you want to do and work with the council to do that too, through sharing your plans with them.
So it seems like I would, I'm hopeful that we can get past the deliberation about the mechanics of it and get into the actually, making progress. And I apologize for whatever part I have in adding to the stress. But I'm really hoping that we can get past that and get into a high performing kind of.
Can I just ask, as far as, like, so the appointments were set in December, and passed, and that's why we're all here. Is anything, shifted to change yet this year, or are we gonna not start this process again until, like, November, December of next year?
I believe we were looking for direction as to whether or not to advertise the openings in the same way we advertise all openings. And just to, say what I had heard, so I staffed the advisory committee appointments, and what I had heard them say, this was like at least a year ago, was that they wanted to just not just like rubber stamp the appointments. They wanted to have some say. There wasn't a big discussion about having people who were not business owners. So, but like what has happened since then.
I do want to clarify that was the conversation at the meeting that you guys had, over Zoom, was specifically letting people who purchase from the downtown businesses be able to have a seat on the bid board. That was specifically talked about, so
That's what they
But-
were asking.
But,
was specifically talked about.
but he did say he heard you guys and,
Right. If
We
you
would come
from a
back.
place of-
right, and we would come back with conversation. So I,
March 7th, I think that's what's important.
Yeah.
yes,
You can fix that your week.
Yeah.
3:30 with a potentially long meeting but we'll send it out. It's on 3:30.
And I'm just, if I'm gonna talk about the justifications on the accounting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the last 20-some years, we've had 2 to 3, city staff members do that.
Right.
There's some here doing accounting. It's the city hall's accounting department that does everything. So that's like when you're, not you, but I'm saying when it's been brought up on red flags on accounting.
Right.
It has been the city accounting department that
Yeah,
has misconstrued or forgot to file for us to have orders from 7 years. That wasn't us. That was the city. That was the city, that city hall and stuff, now pointing fingers back at us.
I agree, and I apologize on our behalf.
Well,
for not-
we weren't in charge of that.
Yeah, so we're trying to get it kind of like buttoned up, and then you got, all we want, honestly, because we've spent, it takes a lot of time on our end, so we just want this to work out, and you guys can do whatever you want to do. Like, I don't think any of us wants to continue these discussions, we just want it to work, and so, what you tell me, apart, like, we can't change the laws as we interpret them, but I think once we can get through that, and if Billy's gets her department staffed up, so she can respond to all your requests as timely as we can, we want to give you great customer service, and things like the ambassador program, that's stuff we can work on together, and we want to be allies and make this all work out. Like, there's nobody who loves the downtown, no, I'm not
More
saying,
than us.
I love it more, but I love the downtown, and many of us do. I live down here, work down here, so.
and I would add in the last 5 to 6 months, I think we have addressed many of the concerns that resolution, a lot of the concerns that were listed in there have been addressed or are being addressed. So we are taking the concerns seriously and trying to address them. Yep, there's been some bumps in the roads that we're still working and trying to overcome, and we'll figure them all out and we'll move forward. But I think we've got to look at moving forward and
So,
getting back to the work that's needed. So.
Josh, thanks for coming. I just want to move us on because we do now have the quorum. Thank you guys for that discussion. So we're gonna go back to agenda item number 2, if y'all don't mind. Go to previous meeting minutes. Does anybody have a comment on any of that? A lot of.
I apologize for being late. I'm on the Y board too, so
Oh,
doubled up this morning.
we're just glad you came.
Motion pass.
Okay, do I have a second?
So that's it.
All right, we got a second from Jeremy.
We just kind of moved on.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So are we saying that we accept the city's resolution and we're gonna operate that way, or? I mean, that would have to be voted on to change our operating plan as how we elect our bid board members. Because if the city wants to get involved with electing our bid board members, I mean, I'm totally against that.
So the operating plan is still the one that has been in place. We have been working with the bids to develop new operating plans, and after the March 7th meeting, then we'll incorporate, after the council meeting, after that, we'll incorporate, work with the bids to include information on that.
Billy, what John's trying to say, why we shouldn't work.
There's been discussion that the operating plans need updated. A lot of bid members feel that, and so we started last week working with bid members on that, so.
They wanted to change them to their way, not have somebody else tell us.
We're working together on it.
We want to shut up, just be cognizant of that when the bid wants to go do something differently.
See, the problem we're having here is the city wants to develop their operating plan for the bid.
No.
Well, you gotta do that because you're taking action. So, I guess when it comes to vote on it, I think all the bid board members should consider what we shouldn't give up bids control to the city.
I do think it is interesting that it's being forced to be collaborated upon, because it doesn't seem that that's standard, across the board for bid. John Sable wrote an operating plan that created some stir because he did it in private, and it was said that that was inappropriate. John Sable has resigned from this board, which is a huge loss to you guys. And I don't know if you knew that, but I'm just telling you, and this is one of the reasons why. So the city is going to work with the bids on drafting a general operating plan, and they're saying that you guys can have like an addendum to the end of it. I think that ultimately, you're right. It does come down to the bid choosing their operating plan. There's nothing in state statute that says this needs to be collaborated on and drafted up through the city for the bid. This is something you can do on your own. The problem is we are not allowed to have outside counsel review our operating plan. So without that, there's the problem. And so this is still in question. They're gonna move forward in developing it. That doesn't mean you guys have to accept it as your operating plan if it doesn't work, but we need something in place so that you can do the mission that you set out to do, like paint banners, do landscaping, beverage.
I would just encourage everybody to come to the meetings, collaborate and see what's developed. And if there's concerns from individual bids, we'll talk about it and work on it.
But is there any established precedent for why John was not allowed to do that in private?
We've had that conversation
But
multiple times.
Not for me. I know all
Yeah,
this information.
We've
I'm
just,
not empty here.
we've discussed it with the board too. So I don't know
Are you
that
guys aware?
just rehashing everything over and over is productive.
Okay, they just said they're not aware. So if you could take a moment to explain, that might be helpful.
We were told that it has to be done in a public process. It wasn't done in a public process, and that's what happened.
Where is that coming from though? Because it doesn't say it in state statute.
Came
so-
from our legal
Okay,
department.
So the legal department is determined it must be done.
See, that's one of the problems. Steve Nick runs the city, and so now he
Okay.
wants to run the bid board.
Nikki, we.
Well, yeah, to be fair, we do not have operating plan on our agenda. We do have a lot to cover. I think this is important information. I'm not trying to squash it. I do want to say, as far as an operating plan goes, there is nothing agreed upon until we have lots of conversation and bringing it back to full board and having further discussions. So this is not going to be something that is easily going to be agreed to. So I think there's just a lot of work that can still be done with it. We do have a motion sitting on the table. Yeah, we got a second over here. We got to do it all in favor. Say aye. Any opposed? All right. Any further discussion on that? Great, motion passed. Perfect. Let's move on to current financials. We got an action required on that as well.
I will add to this that fiscal year 2024 closes in March. So right now, these are the numbers from 2024. I think we have all the outstanding bills from 24 addressed. So that should be final. If something would come up, it would need to be addressed before March so that we can get it done into the 2024 budget.
I had a question. The 2025, I think you sent it in a separate email,
Yes.
dated 2025. I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but there's like two different account description line items that are different from what we had before. We never had an activity promotion line item, and payment to Decky, we changed years ago to administrative or staff support. So I'm just wondering if, what that was all about, or,
I will find out.
okay. Is that what you were gonna ask?
I was the other, the activity promotion.
Yeah, activity promotion, I don't know if we have any idea what that is.
Oh, I'll find out.
Okay,
My only question would be the $500 donation to Decky, and if that's been determined to not come out of your budget.
What was that for?
It was for the Fall Fest charity dump tank. South Barstow was going to honor a matching grant up to $500 for the winning organization, which was the My People Food Bank. So Decky has paid out the charities, but we didn't have that additional 500 to provide to them. And we were still waiting about sponsorships and donations.
yep. And I don't know if that was gonna be something included in staff updates from you. There's been a big question that I've asked for a lot of different reasons about, are we allowed to donate, sponsor grants? And there was a conversation happening at city level.
Yeah.
Like, we're allowed to do that, but that would,
And I can talk about that in the announcements. The Decky donation is not necessarily a part of that conversation. We've discussed what happened there. It wasn't approved by the full board, which it needed to be approved by the full board. So that's why it cannot be paid.
Can we prove it now?
no,
You can't prove it
Good
in
day.
hindsight.
The boards had given power to the executive board or the executive committee persons to spend their money.
The entertainment
On
committee-
certain things. On certain things. Sponsorships was not something that was approved for them to do.
At the entertainment committee.
So
we do have, there is a motion looking back at all of our past, meetings. I think exec committee was given the power to spend up to like $1,000 or something like that.
So
I
share
think it's
share
something,
that with me and we can
yeah,
continue
I
the
think, right, and
conversation.
this was, it's still on my radar. Because yeah, I still don't understand why we can't just ask you guys now at the full board if we can make sure that we give Decky this $500, and there's still like no answer because we don't know what, if we can donate or,
Well, no,
gift or
the answer is a few people can't decide to spend money that the full board has to approve and then come back after the event and ask the full board to approve, and the board then feels obligated. Or if they, right.
Actually, yeah. So I think the question actually is more that when you guys allow your committees to spend within your budget line, entertainment committee's budget line is typically music and maintenance or banners. They didn't include sponsorship as part of that. There's nowhere that says that sponsorship is only under the full board. There's nowhere that says sponsorship should be under entertainment. It's kind of the same as like lighting or landscape. That also takes care of garbage cans. Like there's no specific document that lays this out. So at the entertainment committee, they made the motion to support this because it was fall festival. So it's part of entertainment committee discussion. And so the problem came with that motion wasn't good enough to get us the dollars that the city felt we had to bring it to the full board for approval for that. That was never relayed until.
well, and the thing is, you know, that the hard part that I'm having with it, even though like, while I understand we didn't do things right, we didn't know we weren't doing things right. And we didn't know that we needed like specific descriptions under how we can spend our line items. And so really the only people that are hurting in this is Feed My People. And it's a measly $500 that we're making a big argument over it, and it feels really petty to me. It is what it is. I'm hoping that at exec, we can talk about our motion to spend up to that $1,000 once we figure out a couple of things.
I guess my suggestion would be if you guys do want the right of committees to be able to spend money within their budget line and not have to come back to full board since you don't meet often, is you need to go through at your next meeting and approve exactly what budget lines fall under which committee. So that this can be done swifter without full board.
I already have it on my agenda for our exec. I want to go through and list out every single one of the motions that we've made. I know that's something we discussed, so that we can discuss those and bring those forward to you guys.
And if you can send those to me, we can, if it validates paying that, we will. I've told you, if you can
Yeah.
give me information.
Yeah, I didn't know if
We
that,
spent more than 2 hours going through meeting minutes trying to find something that we could attach with accounting so that it would be paid.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything. It's just like, in city council, if they approve Hawk to spend 50,000 of their housing fund. Well, Hawk agrees with somebody that they're gonna give them 100,000. The money goes out, it's spent, but then it goes, council finds out they didn't give the authority to spend that much money. So even though they gave them authority, you have to act within the authority that was given to you.
so we'll get down to the bottom of it. It's on your radar now, and we'll give you an update at the next full board. Any other further discussion on financials so we can move on? Do I have a motion?
One quick, the sponsorships went from 7,500 to 5,000. I think we just chose to dwindle that down just because of.
We lost it.
We lost 33,000, I think it was. So everyone aware of why that happened too.
Mhm.
I don't know if I have anything else, but as long as everyone knows that we lost a bunch in there, so we like really drastically cut back a bunch of things. And if we can figure out what the activity, promotion, things like that would be, that'd be great. And we also took snow removal, that was in the minutes, obviously, last time we're doing that, but we didn't take that from the reserve, so.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to pass.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Second, Casey Stevens. All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Great. Any discussion? Wonderful, motion passed. Okay. So the next line item, what do we got? Agenda number 5. Decky temporary agreement extension. Okay, so this is gonna be a little bit of a discussion. You guys have in your packets, this is the request for proposal, the RFP. This is something North Barstow has gotten out there, and I don't think has officially approved yet, but this is something they're working on with Decky. Just to kind of give a brief overview, and we kind of talked about this, but North Barstow wanted to give like most of, not all of their budget to Decky so that Decky could just handle all the things. We wouldn't have to deal with the procurement and some of these other bumps in the road that we've been kind of dealing with. When we had spoken with you guys at the last full board, I think there was some hesitancy to go that particular route and just hand over everything. I think there's reasons. I think we're like a really active board, and so I think that we just thought, well, maybe we don't need all of their services. At exec level, we had talked about, okay, so we've got this looming $40,000 that we, in some regards promised to Decky, how do we want to see them do that work? We had agreed to doing a $25,000 donation to Decky, and then we'd have an additional $15,000 for administrative tasks. So we wouldn't be asking for nearly what North Barstow is asking. They have a lot of things in here, like sitting down and going to all of their meetings, taking all of their minutes, et cetera. We didn't think that was maybe necessary, so that's why we discussed going that route. As it stands, this is not confirmed yet with North Barstow and Decky. Our agreements. Yeah, it's in a whole thing right now.
We're waiting for the contracts.
Yep. We also have not been approved to donate and otherwise pay them administrative tasks. So right now, Decky has not received any payments. I wanted to discuss the importance, I guess, of potentially going the route of what North Barstow is doing and for what good reason. And I'm asking today, like through a little discussion, if you guys would potentially be willing to let the exec committee look over this RFP and kind of dissect, what our needs are and see if we can't potentially go the same route as what North Barstow is doing because of the positive reasons. And Erin, maybe you can speak to that because this is definitely more in your wheelhouse.
So North Barstow is going to be giving a portion of their budget to Decky to spend so that we can act on things in real time when needed and not have to go through the payment procurement process in the ways you've seen that kind of slow the things down. And this actually came up
yesterday as a great example because, Thomas Lee Lighting was out removing snowflakes and garland, which they do have a contract for to do, but then they put up Jazz Fest banners at the same time, and that is not part of the specific contract. And so now there's a risk that they might not be getting paid for that service. So ultimately, if Decky were working as the contractor with these vendors, I would be able to make sure that, Thomas Lee could do that, go right to North Barstow, go over to West Grand all in one trip with the boom truck when it's downtown, save money for all 4 bids and get the job done, in an efficient way for them as well. So North Barstow is looking at, doing that. They're not giving 100% of their funds to Decky. There's a few line items like capital improvements that they will be keeping aside, but ultimately we will be running things like their beautification program, their landscaping, that kind of thing. So I'll be the direct contact for that. We're still working on how that looks. Council will be looking at the contract that the city has with Decky as an organization tonight, for approval, and there is, some information within that contract about how that will operate. So we're still working out those details. I would say that, obviously you can go either route, like Nikki said. One is more cumbersome specifically for the bid chair, to make sure these things are in place, similar to the Thomas Lee Lighting situation, where you have timelines, and this will come to play with Jen as well, because, or whoever does your landscaping, previously it was Jen, because she really needs to start doing things now. She's purchasing plants, getting things ready with vendors, and she'll be out amending soil as soon as she can. And unless that RFP is in place and ready to go, can't pay for work that's previously been performed. So these are things that a lot of other bids do. I just read about a report from Milwaukee with 38 bids, and it's a really amazing report they do annually. They kind of explain what the municipal role is, what the bids role is, and they actually encourage bids, the 38 different bids, to work together with other bids on combining services like this, and especially working with a downtown organization that can help facilitate this, so you're not open and you're making sure efficient work happens. So
I want to talk to, maybe you can speak to this too. Because it's been a little bit more highlighted, like the importance of us potentially paralleling what North Barstow is doing on majority of it, in relation to working with the vendors.
Yeah.
It seems silly that like Aaron would be working, with Thomas Lee Lighting, and then somebody from our committee or our board would also be calling them, when we could just have a 1-point contact that could, then reach out to us. So if you want to speak to that, it just feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know, if you don't want any more emails from us, from anyone, I would be the point of contact. And obviously I've had a chance through being chair of South Barstow BID to build these relationships and work with these vendors. You guys would have the choice of what vendor it is. I would go seek out quotes if that's what you wanted to see, but certainly it would just help things, flow more smoothly. Efficiency is important. And then of course, collaborating with the other bids. You don't have a chance to meet with North Barstow and know their projects. I do. So I know that, working with Thomas Lee is going to be a huge savings for all 4 bids if you choose this vendor over piecemealing different things. The other issue you really need to think about is, obviously the local economy is extremely important. And right now things are really scary for a lot of small businesses. And we really don't want to be putting our vendor relationships at risk, because it's hard enough to find vendors that are even capable of doing some of this work, because it is unique. So
And we've already put a few at risk.
yeah,
We've worked it out, but
Yeah.
it's not a comfortable place to be.
Yeah, there's vendors not wanting necessarily to work with the bids if this is going to be how it's going to be, or if payment isn't coming through. And so what I want to do is keep the relationships intact, keep you informed, make the decisions based on how you want to spend your dollars, and then
I also want to ask city staff, from your perspective, and you've done all the side work with all this, what would your comment be to going this route? Would you support this rather than the way things are operating? Would you like to see that?
Fully support it for all bids to do, because it takes us out of a lot of it. And to be honest, relieve a ton of stress, a ton of issues that we're having troubles trying to work through, and moving forward. I think it would be a positive thing. If I can be honest, I think you guys are going to be paying for some services that are not as complicated as it's being made out to be. So I would review the investment of your funds for what you're getting, but I would love most of this to be as far away from me as possible.
Who wrote this?
I believe that was Julia Johnson.
Julia and,
In collaboration with.
the purchasing manager. So Julia provided the scope and the
Yeah.
purchasing manager put together the document based on Julia and North Barstow bid scope.
Me talking work.
No. it was-
No, Greg Bowie.
Okay.
Yeah, if you guys haven't had a chance to look at this, it's quite extensive. And they really are, I will say some of my hesitancy early on was, you know, looking at this scope of work and going, oh my God, like, Decky's restarting too. I mean, do they even have, you know, the staff and the time to do this for two major bids?
We can do it
And
if,
they can, right? I mean,
if we can do it. This in between isn't working. Yeah.
they're wasting time, we're wasting time, city staff is wasting time. I
I definitely
think
still have the mission to operate in that.
we're looking to potentially streamline this, but because there's been some hesitancy, I wanted to bring this back to you guys and just kind of see if we can further discuss potentially moving forward in this direction.
I think overall, this concept would free up a lot of time and stress for everybody. I guess this has been sent in, and where's that stand with the city? I mean, we can look at it and we can revise it to us, but is it just gonna be a waste of our time? It's gonna be negated, picked apart, and not gonna be passed through, or is it pretty close to getting passed through with the city?
Yeah, we're working on the agreement. So we have a temporary agreement with North Barstow bid that's being worked on. We need to finish up temporary agreement with South Barstow to get through the January, February. When you guys do action, I would recommend that you add March to the South Barstow. So that if you do want to do an RFP, that starts giving that time, maybe even April because of the timelines. I don't think we can extend the temporary out much further than that. But we want to make sure we're covered if you guys do want to do an RFP so that it can get out and get approved. Once we get that first North Barstow agreement done and Decky reviews it, if we have any difference of thoughts in it, get those worked through. The rest of the agreements should be pretty easy because they'll be very, very similar.
Is there a deadline or a timeline on that? It just seems like everything's kind of like, there's so many things up in the air right now, right? And there's so many kind of, I want to call it bickering back and forth and nitpicking everything back and forth, which I understand there's gotta be policies and things in there too. I just, is it actually gonna be this year or is it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as soon as we have a scope, we can put an RFP together, get it out. It does have to be out there for at least 3 weeks, I believe, to give other organizations the opportunity to submit a proposal also. Then we'll set up a meeting. You guys choose 3, 4, your whole board, however many you want, to review proposals and make a decision. You can choose the one you want, even if it's a higher bid, as long as there's a valid reason to choose that one. So you'll look through all that. Staff will be there to help and answer any questions. But the board can authorize a group to review them and make a decision. And then once that decision's made, we just need to do an agreement with that organization.
So we have a full board, April 15th. We have an exec on April 1st. And so, if you guys, if there's any further discussion, I'm asking maybe for a motion that we can continue looking into this. At exec level, we can get something a little bit more tangible. And then we would, again, then bring this back to you guys, April 15th. So nothing would be approved until.
The obvious problem with that is that she just said that the temporary contract can only be extended maybe another month. So now you're looking at extending through April if it needs 3 weeks and then time to do it. So you're actually looking through like May.
Right.
So I'm just not sure how this works. The other thing I want to say is that
From like a payment.
did not receive any other bids for this RFP. We were the only organization. If that happens again here, I'd like to make some sort of like point about how Decky is a very unique operation and can serve the needs of the bids different than other organizations can. So that maybe we don't have to do this every year, similar to how the sculpture tour you mentioned is the only organization that can do that service, and so that they're allowed. At some point, it seems strange, again, if we're trying to consolidate resources, time, energy, money. This process over and over annually if truly this is a unique organization that can serve very unique needs of a very unique group.
So as we've discussed with other agreements and stuff, this isn't something that would have to be done every year. With the agreement we write, it will be a 1-year agreement. We can't write more than 1 year because that's what you guys do your budget for. But we can put in that agreement that if budget is approved and mutual agreement between the parties, the agreement can continue for 3 years, 5 years, indefinitely. So it can be a long-term contract, but it's going to have the caveat that it's based on budget approval, because you don't want to write a 5-year contract and then come in next year and be like, no, we don't want to do this anymore, but you're going to be bound to it. If you guys vote to not approve a budget for it, then that creates an issue if there is a set contract. But we can put that language in there so we don't have to do the RFP every year.
Sure. Being that we are kind of looking at this, this timeline potentially being until May, I know agenda item for the temporary agreement extension. Right now, we have a agreement to pay Decky for January, February. We're asking if we can get an extension through March. Can we go ahead and make a motion to make it through April?
Let's, if
So
you
that
guys
we
aren't,
could buy us some time to work this out?
if you guys aren't talking about it again till April, I'll say let's do through May. If purchasing or accounting gets a little upset, I'll take the heat from it. Stephanie's in here and she's not telling me no, so just nod. And we're agreeing to extend their temporary agreement period through May so that we can get the RFP
Does everybody
through.
feel comfortable?
We just can't do it long term. We got to get
This is a
moving on.
unique
Yeah,
scenario.
we just
I
got to
think.
get moving on something if you guys want to do it. So
Said that, are we gonna put this work in for it to just be pointless and nobody wants to do that? But I do think that North Barstow already did a lot of the legwork and I appreciate that. So
Mhm.
I'd like to put forth a motion for our exec committee to be able to review this and put together a proposal, an RFP that we can review at our next board meeting. Over.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Josh.
Can we get a
All-
timeline on that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think everybody
Discussion.
really,
Yep,
It is a lot. I don't think that our bids
It's a lot.
require that much.
Yeah.
personally.
we would almost make this more of a focus for that next
Mhm.
meeting and kind of leave out all the fluff so we have time to really talk about it.
Can we get a direct timeline on this transitional contract? Because, Ducky typically is supposed to receive funds by the last day of February and the last day of August that are city funds. That would include bid funds like Water Street and Strand that don't have them tied to a service agreement. I just want to make sure that we're not kicking the can down the road. Ducky's been, dipping into its money market account to be paying for things because we haven't received any funds at all. And I just don't want the contract, again, we're at the end of February, like this should be wrapped up with a nice little bow by.
my understanding is I'll have something to you this week.
I also, and to
And
Rita's-
I ask every few days where it's at, and so that's my understanding. We'll have something over this week.
And Rita, to your point, are we gonna put all this work in and find out that, oh, by the way, we can't do this RFP with Decky and blah, blah, blah. I think that if by our exec meeting on April 1st, if this is not tidied up, then we have an issue, right? I mean, because this went through tightened up January 30th, and there was obviously a couple of weeks and there's still some contracting, but if 4 months go by that there's not an RFP signed with Decky, then I don't think positively I would want to move that route to get them paid and work with them. We'd have to figure something else out. So we should have some answers.
And then as far as the $25,000 donation to Ducky, because this is kind of separate, you're looking at moving your budget line items so that I'm able to use those dollars to pay other vendors. Where is the status on that, and have there been determinations that you?
That's still wrapped up in staff update. But we do have to tidy up this motion.
Yeah.
If that's okay. We had a discussion. I just want to say motion passed. Okay. But I also, to that, we also need to make a motion to agree to extend the Decky temporary payment through March and April,
Through May,
through May, through all of May?
yeah. Because if you guys don't meet again until April, we get out the RFP and stuff, yeah.
Anybody want to make a motion to that?
Make a motion to extend the temporary agreement protection through May.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, any further discussion? Great, motion passed. Okay, so enough on all that. We'll have a lot of discussions coming up. We skipped around a little bit. Agenda item 7, we do have, it says landscape RFP action required. Per our previous meeting minutes, we already went ahead and made a motion to allow that committee to make a decision on the RFP proposal. I don't know, we can look back if you guys want to look at the previous minutes, but I accidentally put action required. There is no need. We're meeting on Monday. There's a group of 3 of us. John, he was the old landscape chair. He agreed to help us out with that. So John, myself, and not this John, John Sable decided.
Asking as the board, can we urgent to come back and
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll talk to him, but.
I tried.
Yeah.
Dave and I met with them also, and Dave and I met with them also, and he was planning on quitting at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
just
he,
hurry them up a little bit?
Yeah, John
We-
said he was going to bed thinking about the bid and waking up thinking about the bid, and that's not a healthy situation.
He's been
Nope.
trying to retire for a little while.
Wait,
I support him.
No, you got, I know, me too.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item 9. I think we're totally caught up. CIP update and discussion. I don't know if we need to really waste any time on this because we don't have anything tangible to look at.
I can give
Unless
you,
you've got some major updates. I have just asked, I
update.
want to keep this in our full board, updates as far as any major construction projects looming. There was an old CIP out there, but I think that we just always need to be aware of.
and there is a
anytime
website
things.
that I can send out to you guys that shows the CIP projects for the year,
That
so
would be
you can
good.
look at them and they keep them
Send it.
updated, but, from, engineering specific to downtown, South Dewey Street, Emery to Lake, and then also, Emery Street, South Farwell to South Dewey in 2025. Not necessarily downtown, but may impact downtown in some ways. There'll be construction on Birch Street, Franklin to Bergen Avenue, and also 3rd Street. And also some impact at 3rd Street. 1st Street is being reconstructed from Platt to 3rd Street. So I'll send you guys the CIP map where you can look and see specifically where all that work's being done.
Cool. That's all I had on that. I just want to always, keep us aware, but if we can get that website, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna move right through this. We've got board chair updates. There's been a million conversations that I've been involved with over the last couple months. First things first, I went to the council meeting, talking about the parking study on whether or not they should, accept it or whatnot. It was interesting. I think, I don't know, I got cut off at my time. I'm really bad at public speaking, but, the major point that I will forever stand by is I think timing is going to be everything on this. I think if they're not careful and roll this out at the wrong time, we're going to have an issue. They did, however, adopt the parking study. The parking study does, in fact,
Accepted it.
they accepted it. Yes, there's still going to be further discussion from my understanding. But the study does, in fact, conclude that he did support or think that we needed to do paid on street parking. So I feel like that's something looming that we just are going to eventually have to get ready for. But again, I think timing on this is going to be really important.
Did the study ever go through like the people that actually impacts versus someone that's just randomly thinks it's okay? Like people actually park downtown, customers, clients.
Yeah, we get a lot of complaints.
I'm just wondering because I saw when this thing was going on, I saw Facebook and 100 some comments. There might have been only one comment. Like it's not so bad. All of them negative. It's going to affect all the people who come downtown. I'm just.
I know. And there was, a few discussions on it. I mean, I know I spoke out against it at least a couple different times. I'm hoping there's still going to be more just because it's in his study. Maybe doesn't mean the city wants to accept it. But...
They do it every 4 years, time when they actually do anything in the city.
Right, yeah.
Or another fund.
So we could just keep pushing it out. Maybe they'll let us.
There will be more opportunity though to talk about it, because again, council just accepted me that they accepted that the study was done and this is what the study said. So many more conversations, but it is important to talk to your customers, because we're hearing a lot on the street about people being not willing to come downtown if that were the case. And so we just need to make sure, I do think that John made a very clear point that there has to be a point person, leadership and communication on this. And it doesn't need to start right away.
Yeah, he never put it, to be fair, he never put a timeline on that. I thought that was really important to know.
I think he meant doing it right is more important than doing it now.
Is there a timeline for the next meeting or?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Do we know?
I don't think we have a set date yet, but Dave's traveling for work in New Orleans. When he gets back, I think he wants to get started on that and the trash, setting up meetings.
Yeah.
And at public comment period, the council, if you have customers that feel strongly, they're welcome to go even, at the point where it's not on the agenda, that they can speak to council and express their concerns.
And I don't want to say this wrong, but the budget's already been passed for the year, so like we shouldn't expect anything to happen 2025 yet.
I really don't know, it's up to the council, but I will say though that we don't like, in the ideal scenario, you would be able to create this parking guru, who would then be able to marshal everything through, but we don't have funding to create the parking guru unless we have some kind of paid parking system. So we kind of have to figure out, if they do want to go ahead with paid parking, we have to kind of figure out a way to bootstrap ourselves to managing the process without funding and then making sure it goes smoothly. So that's kind of a chicken and egg problem.
So just another thing we got to keep on our radar. I know at that same meeting, there was a lot of people from the Kitty Cat Cafe, the churches kind of surrounding that Schlegel Milch lot. I don't want to get into it now because we probably don't have time for it, but there is talk of development of the Schlegel Milch lot and taking away all of that parking. So that's a huge concern for us down on our end of South Barstow. But anyway, moving on, we'll get to that at a later date when we know more. Transit Center. I just wanted to let you guys know we did sit down. Me and Angela, we sat down with Ty. He's the point person for the project. There's been at least,
There's been an update. Sorry.
there's an update. Yeah, he's the interim or whatever for now. But yeah, so we had noticed that there wasn't any work going on for a couple of weeks and we were a little nervous about that. Long story short, he assured us that the image is still that summer and fall, the transit is going to be in operation. He's really anxious to get a revenue stream going. If it goes any farther than fall, it means that he has to go return back to the FTA and have a conversation. And he said he really doesn't want to do that. So summer, fall is what they're still planning. The transit would be operating. They would still have time to perform the work on the apartments. So the apartments would follow like 3 to 4 months after the opening of the transit. At that point, when the transit opens, they're hoping that at least one level of the parking would become available. So we'll see on that. The Antique Emporium, that one we also noticed there's been a huge halt going on over there. Speaking with the project manager involved over there, they're on a halt until they have any confirmed leases. So there is not anybody signed on a lease. There's nothing specific happening at that location. So she kind of said, if you know anybody that's interested in looking for a space, I think they're really wanting to build it out per who, the interested party is. So right now, nothing is going on. They're done with some of the major work. We're going to see a little bit more work on the roof, but for any of our interested parties on Main Street, we shouldn't see any other large trucks. So, okay, and then the calendar, I don't need to speak to it. You guys all got the calendar in your packet. If there is any conflicts with us having moved from Wednesday to Tuesday, that was strategic, that we had to do that. So if you have a meeting that's gonna always get in the way, just let me know personally. And if there's enough complaints, we can always work to shift these around. But it did have to work into city staff, committee meetings, and otherwise personal life. So, and then lastly, I just wanted to say, so our executive committee. So yeah, John resigned. I've kind of known, he's a friend, he was my landlord for a decade. So I kind of knew that maybe this was going to be happening. I support absolutely everything, in his decision. So that being said, we thank him for his service. I know he's not here to accept that, but we'll all tell him in our own little ways. But that means that we do have a chair seat open. So, if you guys have any interested parties to sit on the board, Becky is hosting on their website, what do you call it? The application.
Yeah, so you still need to apply to Citizen Resource Bank. We have the link that goes to the city's bank there so people can find out. We have done a little bit of recruiting. Pablo is very interested in having a seat on the board again. You do have one open seat right now.
Jen from Planet, who is here.
Jill, yeah, or Jill. And then, someone else reached out to me recently, so that you do have people interested in serving, so that should be coming forward to you through the city.
Lois, are we gonna approve?
Lois is approved. She could make it today,
Okay.
but we figured since we're gonna have another open seat, we'll do a big introduction
Yeah.
next time we see you guys. And that being said, we also then would have an opening for exec. I think, we have some ideas. I wanted to, I guess personally, throw out, I was interested in moving up Rita. I think she's been on this committee long enough, and I do think,
Well, what about Casey?
oh, well, Casey doesn't, you want to be on the board, but we forced it.
I'm just kidding.
I didn't say that I want.
Yeah, to be fair, you didn't say you had to do it either. We are gonna wait till, Dave gets back and we have our exec meeting in April. But of course, if anybody else is interested, in being exec, please just email me and we can
Just say no.
And
Yeah.
if you're okay with it, we can also share that there is an open seat on social media that restricts it to the boundaries and property or business owner, because that is what the current thing is, to make sure that people who may not have regular interactions know, and they may want to become a part. So to make sure it is inclusive of everybody in the South Barstow BID.
More the merrier.
Okay.
And we'll have a good conversation at exec.
It's on the website for potential.
Yeah, the Citizen Resource Week, so we can get through that in the Jackie update.
Yeah, okay. So that's all I had. Just some very quick little updates and then, I want to kind of hand over the last 5 minutes or so to Erin and, we got a couple more, but.
A lot going on at Jackie, as we talked about today. Some really fun, exciting stuff. Let's start with it personally for South Barstow. We're still building out the website. So South Barstow is now on the Jackie website. When you go to the business resources, each bid is listed and has its own tab. Yours is very basic right now. It lists your board members and the businesses that you come from. And then Nikki is the only one with an email contact listed there. The world is your oyster and this page is your own. So please, I think this would be nice to have, whether it's the exec committee or one of the committees, kind of curate what you want on there. If you would go there and take a look, Water Street has a very different kind of approach to what they had. They wanted, like a map showing kind of where their businesses are, that you can click when they're active. So we worked on that. So yours is kind of a fresh slate. We'd love to get a photo of the board, but also on there would be where we could also promote that you have a board seat open. So again, it would be if you guys want that information out there, I certainly can do it. And then we would include it in our mail outs. For North Barstow, we have the application for beautification grants on there, some of their programming that they do, so people can directly find out. There eventually will be a map linked to it as well, where that part of the directory is taking time to build out. So just know that that's coming. But something to include, again, it would be up to you, Nikki, where you kind of see this falling as whose responsibility. But as soon as you guys decide what you want out there, we'll take care of handling that. And so new resource. So the Jackie page right now is functioning primarily as business resource. Downtown businesses to be able to find information about what's going on, connect with other businesses in their district, learn information. Digital Clear is really the outward facing kind of promotional entity, and they do more of that. We don't want to cross over it too much with them, but we have heard some feedback from businesses that they would also like a little bit more outward facing for the general public. Know that we're working on it. It'll take time. We're starting with businesses first as our members and kind of our mission, and then adding that on. So check it out if you can. And again, the link to the Citizen Resource link is there, so it's very easy to find. Other exciting things coming up, March 6th, before your big operational plan meeting and your anniversary birthday, we're gonna have a celebration. The downtown, annual awards event, now known as the Duckies, will be at the Lismore this year. So in your district, we are planning a really amazing event. There's multiple members from your side of the river that will be honored and recognized. So try to make it. If you weren't there last year, too bad, because it's great. This year's gonna be better. So make sure you get your ticket. BID board members do get a discount. So get those going. So that will be fun. Matt Kavish will be hosting again, and we also just secured our raffle license. So get ready, folks. Bring your dollars. We have amazing prizes. Rita's been working really hard on helping us get some cool raffle prizes to give away. We have a ton of wine from Sean that we bought last year and could use in the grand evening that we'll be raffling as well. So just make sure you bring some dollars to do that. Lismore is also graciously sponsoring us by providing the venue and then giving us a kickback, $1 per drink. So again, please, if you can, we're starting a new phase of Decky, which is called fundraising.
I don't want to move off of raffling. There's also something exciting looming with the raffle license.
Yes. We're gonna have our very first meat and cheese raffle. So we're planning that. I'm so excited. Don't worry, Mike still mentioned we might be auctioning off guns. That's not happening. Just meat and cheese. The goal of this would be to support local businesses or farmers. With that, we purchase it and you come and try to win it. So we just found out yesterday we got approved for our raffle license and we'll be setting our first one up. Hopefully very soon, April or May. Probably a South Barstow business will be the first business that we do it. We're looking at using Clancy's as a space I'm very comfortable in to test out my first time raffling meat. So tell all your friends. Apparently this is something that Wisconsin and Minnesota like to do, and I want to bring it to a play.
Hey, look, Decky hasn't gotten paid yet. We're really trying to get some money in.
So that's coming up. Other than that, things that are happening in your district that you should be aware about because your next meeting is not till April. We have the amazing Eau Claire downtown cleanup. So we're looking for volunteers from the bid boards and from Decky to come down into their districts and actually help support the other volunteers. So if we had a tent handing out gloves and shovels and rakes and things. So we're working in collaboration with Parks Department to make that happen. That's the 19th of April.
Is anything shifting with it this year as far as like the city's kind of more handling it than Decky and?
Yeah. So Decky's always, we have a ton of yard equipment that we purchased for this event. So we'll be kind of spreading that out around the 4 downtown districts. But we are hoping to focus on North and South Barstow. Oh my gosh, that's a good thought. I think some of the things we would like from the bid would be more specific projects dealing with prepping the planting beds to get those ready right away. Other things that are happening, Jazz Crawl is earlier this year, so it's like 12th or something. Jazz Crawl will be in your district again, closing off the streets on Friday night. So that will be happening. And then we also have the marathon the very last weekend in April. This year, Decky is going to try to coordinate a larger, hopefully the weather will cooperate because they've had bad weather the last 2 years, but the South Barstow Street Block Party. South Barstow is about I think there's about 3 miles left in the entire marathon at that point. And so it's a point of the race where people are really starting to feel it. So bringing the energy, we're going to try to curate some fun street side activities and encourage businesses to actually be open during this. This is something that notoriously businesses just shut down for. But there's a lot of people there, so we're working on trying to make sure there are businesses open for those spectators who want to enjoy the downtown and learn more about it. So I'll be letting you know more information about that, and it'll be on our website. Other than that, I mean, there's a million other things I could tell you, but that's about it for now.
And I just want to like really make note. I mean, obviously, Decky, you guys do a lot with like events and, you know, the fun stuff. If you haven't gone and read that RFP that North Barstow put together, like Decky does so many things. So while we just think they're fluff and having like fun events, there is so much more. And I just while we're kind of furthering into this discussion, like this is already a lot of work, but all the other stuff they're doing is really great too. So.
Yeah.
But thank you, Jackie.
Oh, I should say we are announcing the winners of the Jumpstart at the Ducky event, which we are gonna do now annually. That will be kind of the announcement phase. And so, 3 really amazing businesses and a South Barstow business will be recognized as one of the top 3. I won't tell you who, but come around and check it out. Support your friends and neighbors.
I gotta go, thank you guys.
Thank you. We just have one last one. I have no announcements, so it looks like we just have staff update.
I'll start with parking citations. So when they're out going around, it's not uncommon to see people run when they see the Jeep coming with the lights on to move their car because they know they're in violation. So just so you guys are aware and you can share with people, if it hits in the LPR that there's a violation, the ticket will be issued. If the person runs out and moves their car, we will mail them because we do have proof that it was in violation. So if you have staff doing that, let them know because they're taking up spots for your guys' customers. We have one business in particular that I've been out with the individuals doing the work and seen 6, 7 people run out. So that's 6, 7 spots that aren't available for your guys' customers. And it's happening with quite a few different businesses. It's actually kind of humorous, just to see them run. So if your staff is mailed a ticket and they say something about it, that's why. So I can share information about ramp parking, transit, all that stuff as alternatives. There are free parking lots currently that people can park in. So I would suggest those also. And then the donation information, I'll be sending out a memo hopefully today. I have a lot of meetings today, but just to briefly cover it. Donations of voluntary gift. It does have to be approved during the budget process. It's when, so like when you guys are doing your budgeting process, it would be somebody coming during that time and requesting a donation and itemizing, outlining what the services provided would be for that donation. Grants very similar, but those can be done. You can set a grant budget and then, do a grant process. It doesn't have to have as much detail up front. And then sponsorships, and grants also have to be detailed of what the money's being spent on and then shown that work's done. And then sponsorships, similar to grants, you give those are typically more for recognition. So you give a sponsorship to be on their t-shirt, and it's helping them with the event, or somebody might sponsor a planter and so their name goes on it. But I'll send out a memo that goes a little more in depth. I don't want to keep you guys much longer, but that's the process on that.
How would that work for Sculpture Tour for this year? Are they able to ask for a request?
They're doing sponsorship.
Oh, I thought you just said sponsorship needs to be, I wrote down at budget time.
No, that's a donation.
Interesting. Okay. Even furthermore important why we are having the discussion for the RFP. Because if we can't do a $25,000 donation, then
You can do a $25,000 sponsorship.
but we wouldn't be able to do it till next year because our budget is already set.
Right, but we can talk about how you can do it, because you can do it as a grant. It just has to be outlined what would be done. But we'll talk about how that can work.
We'll come with some options. Hey, meeting adjourned. Thank you, Casey, for coming.